All right, my name is Tanner Ross Gregory. I am Jesus Christ. Today I'm going to attempt to prove to you that I'm Jesus Christ, as well as all of these other key points listed above. Okay. All right, so the commands of Moses for people to stone each other to death for various acts such as prostitution or homosexuality, that was a bargain with our primitive urges of violence so that we would more readily adhere to a more ideal form of government. Okay. Jesus Christ's crucifixion was a means by which we were subdued in our willingness to continue proceeding with those violent commands. All right, so we evolved past the point of those commands' usefulness. I see what Jesus Christ went through. I cannot bring myself to do that any longer. Okay. All right, so Jesus Christ put forward some commands on marriage. Those were a bargain with our primitive urges of sexual dominion that we would more readily adhere to a more ideal form of government. All right. So I could say this woman is my sexual property. I could say this man is my sexual property. In exchange, I will more readily go along with what you have to say about the government. All right. So what they did to me as Jesus Christ in order to subdue you in your willingness to continue proceeding with those commands is that they programmed me to become obsessed with this woman. Then they made me see her having sex with all these people for days on end, made me see her getting raped, had me running around yelling at people for what they made me see them do. All right. So I see what Jesus Christ went through with regard to, marriage and all this kind of stuff. I cannot bring myself to do the marriage stuff anymore. Okay. All right, so on December the 4th and December the 15th of 2020, I was made to see two separate women pregnant with my son from having had sex with different men. All right. So the date falling directly in between these dates is December the 10th of 2020. However, because the women were already pregnant when they were revealed to me, and because a woman has her period once a month, and if she misses her period, then she's pregnant, then the date that we're concerned with is November the 10th of 2020. All right. So in the book of Revelation, it says that the dragon was waiting to consume the baby the moment that he was born, but that he was taken into the wilderness by the archangel Michael with the woman to be kept safe for 1,260 days. All right, so 9 months from November the 10th of 2020 is August the 10th of 2021, and 1,260 days from August the 10th of 2021 is Inauguration Day of 2024. Okay. So the dragon represents necessary evil, and the reason that the dragon represents necessary evil is because they're saying it will be a form of necessary evil to kill my son before he inherit all the power that I will be granted to rule over this world as king. Okay? All right, so they actually did have me anoint my head with oil during the crucifixion stage. And so at some point, after reading the Old Testament, figuring out what that meant, I'm going to be king at some point, okay? But I'm not just going to rule over you as king. Okay, so me and the aliens and the artificial intelligence did help as well for a period of about a year and a half. Worked on this new constitution for you guys, and so it's several hundred pages long. It's a libertarian constitution. The only difference is that between libertarians is that it's pro-tariffing. But anyways, the 1,260 days sounds like a countdown, so you might be asking yourself, what is that a countdown to? Okay, and so in the book of Revelation, it says that the Gentiles were allowed to march on the holy city for 42 months, but they have been assigned to the outer court, okay? And then the first beast rules for 42 months, and then the false prophet comes along and makes miracles of fire come out of the sky in full view of the people, is what it says in the book of Revelation, okay? So what does it mean? I mean, it just means that there's a group of people who are here for 42 months. They're allowed to be here. So the 1,260 days, to my understanding, is a countdown to the beginning of the 42-month countdown. Okay? All right, and so at the end of the countdown, there's these group of people that got to leave, and if they don't leave, they're going to be killed with airstrikes. What does that sound like to you? I don't even think I need to tell you, but just to be clear, they're talking about deporting everyone from this country who is not white. Okay? Now, we did come up with a good little situation for their constitution and how we can rig it up and make it sure that they have freedom and all this stuff. But I'm not going to go into, our judicial system ends up appointing their Supreme Court judges, and so they can't really screw it up too bad, okay? But just to be clear with you, yes, we're talking about the deportation of all minorities. and if they don't leave airstrikes. So we're talking about crazy stuff going on. Now, on the subject of mass destruction, there is a prophecy that has to do with the way that the 5 months that the scorpion's stings in the book of Revelation correlate with the 5 months that Noah spent in his ark. And so the government actually staged a sex trafficking situation. The aliens orchestrated all of it. And then once they got me out to California, it was all about, I want you to burn this place to the ground. So what they want is to use nuclear weapons on California. And obviously it's 80% Hispanic. You can't just use airstrikes. But they're also saying that it has to do with Pizzagate, because just like with Egypt, what they did was they said, these are the victims over here, why we're doing it. And then said, well, we're going to make it to where you can't even stop doing it, but then we're going to come through and hit this place with all these plagues and all this kind of stuff, just to get the people to say, I like, all the rules and all the stuff that came out of, Leviticus and Exodus and all that kind of stuff, because they were given a really complex system of rules. So they need a situation like that as well for that kind of thing, okay? But as well, the suicide boys are the two olive trees from the book of Revelation. And so in the book of Revelation, it says that they will prophesy for 1,260 days. So they released this album on August the 13th of 2021 called The Long-Term Effects of Suffering. And on the album cover, it showed somebody behind bars, somebody else throwing up blood into a metal toilet. And so I believed that it meant that 3 days after Inauguration Day, because 1,260 days from August the 13th is 3 days after Inauguration Day. So I thought it meant that 3 days after Inauguration Day that they're going to declare martial law and all the cops are going to end up in jail and all this crazy stuff was about to happen. So I only slept every other night for like a month, and then finally did send it out beginning on Inauguration Day, sent it out for 3 days. And then so after that, I began to look up the Old Testament where the two olive trees are first mentioned. And it starts talking about, the final capstone is in the hand of Zerubbabel and the flying scroll. So what it's saying is that it's prophesying that in 1,260 days that somebody will come along who has finalized the document and then send it out to so many different people, and that will set a series of events in motion that end result in the police going to jail. Probably, not even probably, but it's almost certainly has to do with the war on drugs, primarily, as well as the criminalization of prostitution, gun control, knife control, even child pornography. Making it obviously is bad, but like just having it on your device or something like that, like those people are sick, But that's not, you're not a criminal because you look at something. And so there's so many different things that they're basically essentially saying the police have just been kidnapping people left and right, creating all these black markets and all this stuff, and so they're going to put them, and a lot of that has to do with, of course, getting people. Oh yeah, that's the bad man, and okay, you got the bad man. Okay, I like this new constitution and all that. So.